go. SF Yes, item number one is an ordinance amending the administrative code to require Board of Supervisors approval of a policy governing the funding, acquisition, and use of certain law enforcement equipment of the Sheriff's Department's consistent with the criteria set forth in state law and approving the Sheriff's Department's use of equipment policy.
Thank you to Sheriff Miyamoto and his staff and council for what I think has been a really model process around our implementation of Assembly Bill 481, which this committee well knows was quite lengthy, labyrinth, and difficult in the case of the previous AB 481 policy that the police department brought that ended up with national headlines and not only a half a dozen different hearings in this committee, but several appearances at the Board of Supervisors. That has not marked the case with the Sheriff's Department that with very little work on mine and my staff's part, and I do want to thank and acknowledge my staff, Calvin Yan, for his work on this, was a model insofar as the Sheriff's Department worked directly and collaboratively with the American Friends Service Committee and did so and listened, and there was a back and forth which has resulted in the updated equipment list policies that are before us this morning that were amended as early as 5:50 a.m. today. While I will not speak on behalf of Jennifer Tu, I am in receipt of emails from her that I think share the sentiment that Ronnie Singh at the Sheriff's Office and Lieutenant Coons have really listened and adjusted accordingly. Having said that, I don't think that there is total unanimity, but I think we have gotten close enough, and I will repeat the words that we uttered as it relates to the police department's military equipment policies, which is that this is the baseline first time out. These policies will come back to this Board of Supervisors as required under state law each and every year, so there are opportunities to do that.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Sheriff's Office for this Rules Committee's patience, its collaboration. Sheriff Miyamoto is obviously present today, but he is upstairs viewing by Teams and is available if there are any other questions. But I think the presentation last week, as well as the ongoing commitment by our office to engage with all the supervisors, as well as you, Chair Peskin, and the public, highlights our sense of responsibility in this area of the work that we do. And I think that it is very important to continue that collaboration. And we do invite suggestions next year when we blow off the dust of any equipment that we intend to potentially reinstate. And we're always open to any comment, not only from this board, but the full board as well as the public.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to this item number one? And thank you again for your patience. My apologies that this was not called at the beginning of our agenda as scheduled. First speaker, please.
If you don't mind, if I can make my quick announcement.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Mr. Young.
Yes, members of the public who wish to speak on this item and joining us in person can line up to speak at this time. For those listening remotely, you can call 415-655-0001. Enter the meeting ID of 2481-931-8934, then press pound and pound again. Once connected, you will need to press star 3 to enter the speaker line. For those already in the queue, please continue to wait until the system indicates you've been unmuted, and that will be your cue to begin your comment. Can we have our in-person speaker?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Arthur Koch. I live in San Francisco, District Number 9. I'm a member of the San Francisco Friends Meeting, otherwise known as the Quakers, serving on the Peace and Social Concerns Committee. We believe that nonviolent confrontation of injustices and peaceful reconciliation are always superior to the use of force. Law enforcement and the military also apply nonviolent means before resorting to the use of force and firearms. Only if other means remain ineffective or without any promise of achieving the intended result. In this sense, we have much more in common than differences. I'm here to support you and work with you. So thank you to the Rules Committee and the Sheriff's Department for your collaboration with advocates on this policy and your commitment to improvement and transparency. As a Quaker committed to nonviolence and human rights, I'm concerned about how weapons may be authorized for the use in San Francisco jails and how use in such confined space may impact people detained there. I'm interested in hearing about what kind of increased risk of injury there may be for people in San Francisco jail, or if there's a risk of unnecessary force on innocent bystanders who may be detained there. I'm interested in seeing demographic information on deployments and other uses in the annual report, especially data around location of deployment and race of those present. I advocate for inclusion of private right of action, which means people in San Francisco are affected by violations, and these policies can file a civil lawsuit. Finally, I'm advocating for decommissioning or at least putting real controls on the deployment of fully automatic assault weapons, both pistols and the submachine guns, as well as prohibition on aiming chemical agents, launchers at people. Thank you for this work on this complicated issue.
Thank you.
See you at the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Regina Sneed. I'm a resident of District 2. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm very pleased to be able to support this ordinance with all of the work that members of the Rules Committee, the American Friends Service Committee, the Police Department, and the Sheriff's Department staff. I haven't seen today's early 5:50 a.m. draft, but the description provided by Supervisor Peskin reassures me that, in particular, the Sheriff's Department has listened very well to the community about the needs of the ordinance. I sent an email with a resource that could be useful in the years coming from Other and Belonging Institute, which is part of the Haas Institute at UC Berkeley. They compiled a compendium on policing issues that really are relevant to the AB 481 and its main purpose. So I recommend that to staff. My supervisor, Stephanie's staff, has already reached out to me and thanks me for that resource. So it appears to be relevant and useful. I want to particularly thank the Sheriff's Department for providing in their presentation pictures of the objects that are the rifles and the equipment. That's going to be very helpful for the public. And I want to recommend reading the letters I've sent, which contain further comments about the annual report process and the transparency and the need for the public's involvement in that. I was pleased to hear about the amendments on that and the realignment or the fact that those two reports will be.
Thank you. Speaker time has.
My name is John Lindsay Poland with the American Friends Service Committee. We recognize the extraordinary engagement of the Sheriff's Office with our organization in the development of the proposed military equipment policy. The result contains all the components required by AB 41 for a law enforcement agency proposal for consideration by a governing body. That said, the governing body has its own set of responsibilities under AB 41, including making its own findings that whatever is adopted will safeguard civil liberties and that there is no reasonable, cost-effective alternative to the military equipment. President Peskin referenced the authorization for submachine guns, which are in addition to 90 assault rifles and sniper rifles. There is very little restriction on the deployment of these submachine guns, and that continues to be of real concern to us. The department states that submachine guns was the primary weapon system for SWAT teams in the 80s and is currently phased out. The weapons aren't being maintained, and no one in the department is currently authorized to deploy with it. So we propose to decommission the MP5 submachine gun. The department can always come back to the board if it wishes to phase the weapon back in. Short of decommissioning, we propose 1, that it not be deployed in crowd situations. 2, that deployment should only respond to a threat to life or serious bodily injury. And 3, that variables should be considered prior to deploying the MP5 that could deter its deployment, including the presence of elderly, children, individuals with mental and physical disabilities, medically compromised people, and non-English speaking persons, as has been done with other types of military equipment in this policy. And finally, we haven't seen the sentence that would be removed on chemical agent launchers, but we would like to ensure that it is that the launchers will not be aimed directly
Speaker
at
time has
people.
elapsed. Thank you very much. That was our last remote public call-in.
Okay, public comment is closed, and I note the comments of the last speaker, and one of the policy changes relative to the launchers was adopted in part, at least, by the Sheriff's Department this morning, and the submachine gun issue I spoke to earlier, and with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt the amendments that I discussed previously and have distributed to all of you that are non-substantive according to the city attorney in nature and can be voted on today and sent to the full board. On that motion, a roll call, please.
Yes, on that motion, Supervisor Chan. Chan, aye. Vice Chair Mandelman. Mandelman, aye. Chair Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. The motion passes without objection.
And then I would like to make a motion to send the item as amended to the full board with a positive recommendation.